Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Brian Jennings. This is my channel. It exists to discuss the nature of reality as well as the nature of my relationship with show business. If we take a second to look at my collapsed, miniaturized celestial vision board, out of this book, the 59 icosahedra, comes this pattern, which is the stellation grid of all 59 stellations of the icosahedron, made famous by H.S.M. Coxeter, British mathematician. To the right, or to the left if you're looking at it, is a 29 arc vortex, prime number magic. Below that, John Michel's great final masterwork, The New Jerusalem. Right? So a circle enclosed in a square with 28 subdivisions, 3 squares, and 12 circles inside of the diamonds. 28 is the only perfect number between 10 and 100. Above, we have the Shimim Farash, which I no longer believe to be intellectually valid, but it is in 4 circular arcs of 18, 36, 54, 72. And below that, Ezekiel's wheel, right? The full Hebrew alphabet in 2 circular columns in the same circle. So the first 11 on the top and the last 11 in the middle. Which defines, if you see, this is my innovation, this is one of many that I've discovered recently, that A and L are on the same wedge of a pie, right? The divine prefix Al-Kami, El Shaddai, Elohim. Not in any of the books. To my left are 4 books by the late 19th century master Albert Pike, who is now a hot topic as a result of the nature of cancel culture. He was in the Confederacy of the Civil War. His statue was burned, stored to the ground and burned during the George Floyd riots of 2020. I'm not going to say that I forgive him because he wrote some obviously really blatant racist writings that I have yet to read, but the newer books, I'll cite them. It was like in newspaper articles around the 1840s. All of these books were published later in life, and Freemasonry is a branch of the mystery traditions. So, I accept that we're all flawed. No one can be perfect. But I accept that he is a very sage, wise man and has something to offer me in all of these books. On the far left, the blue one, is his last book about, specifically, the symbolism of the blue degrees, which is the first 3 degrees of Freemasonry. And he attributes it to Hermeticism, which is Rosicrucianism. Essentially what you learn through these books is that Masonry, as we understand it, began no earlier than 1715, which is around the same time as the Rosicrucians. So, to the right, one book is his great masterwork, Morals and Dogma. In Freemasonry, there are 33 degrees. However, there are only 32 chapters in the book. If you make it to the 33rd degree, there's nothing else to learn. Masonry itself is divided into 3 different degrees. There's the practical degree, the moral degree, and the philosophic degree. And so the widest of all of the degrees is the 28th degree, Night of the Sun, over 100 pages. This is perhaps a 1,000-page book. And so this is, his last one was published, he finished handwriting it just before his death in 1890. And then Morals and Dogma, his first edition was in perhaps 1870 or 71, between 1870 and 1875. To the right, one more is Sefer Deborah, the Book of the Words. And it is, I don't know, that's the one I haven't read any of yet. It's a Kabbalistic treatise written by Pike And of course, there's a lot of Kabbalistic philosophy inside of morals and dogma as well. He was obviously fluent in Hebrew, as well as Greek, as well as Latin. Very, very sage, wise man, if flawed like the rest of us. And the last one, the tall one, this is the one that I'm reading now when I can. It is called the Omkara, and a second lecture on Masonic symbolism, a lecture on Masonic symbolism. And the Omkara and other sacred words. And so it touches on Sanskrit in a practical way, which is nice. It is nice. I'll say, as far as the publishing of them, that the three that aren't morals and dogma, this one and these two over here, they do a better job of course, pointing out Pike's flaws in logic, his errors grammatically in writing, and all these things, like philosophically, the tangents that he goes on that don't really go anywhere, because they're all published since the year 2000. They were all written in the late 19th century, but they didn't actually publish them. Of course, Albert Pike was very adamant about this lecture on Masonic symbolism, he published it in a series of 150, and that was it, because he thought the rest should be orally transmitted through the people who bought the book, who were interested in the book. And undoubtedly, that's not what occurred. False copies emerged, and sometimes even today you'll see real copies of this book come onto the market for exorbitant amounts of money. $15,000, $25,000. But this was about $200. It was published in 2006. And if you remember, I unpacked these two books, the Book of the Words and a lecture on Masonic symbolism, at the same time on this channel, perhaps 6 weeks ago. This is the first video I've made in a while. I went live however long ago and was painting. I feel like my painting's kind of falling apart. At least I could repaint it. The ship is, I don't know, it just kind of looks like diarrhea. But I'm trying to expand my doing, right? To not be defined completely by Quentin, by the movie Critic. Another reason that I haven't made any videos of late is because, right? It's gotten really bad. It's gotten really bad. So we say that life is a psychological projection from a hologram. Anyone who knows anything about a hologram knows that if you have a hologram of, say, a rose, the War of the Roses, right? Then you hit the hologram with a hammer into 9 pieces, nine fractured pieces. Each piece has the whole hologram, right? And then you hit each of those into 9 pieces, into 81 pieces. And then, though it's degraded, the image is degraded, all 81 pieces. Right? This is touching at the heart of the holographic model. That the universe acts as a holographic projector out of the quantum probability into a crepuscular, measurable, physical phantom. So, what is the engine that drives it out of a quantum likelihood into a physical actuality? And that's mind, consciousness, the conscious field. Right? And so it's essentially a valve, more or less, that is off and then it's on, and it blasts quantum fields, which is everywhere, blasts the quantum field, wherever it may be, with the energy of intention, which mutates inert space out of a condition of rest into a condition of corrupted motion, which yields a kinetic shadow of the idealized form. Right? The form is in every piece. Right? And I've talked about this 1,000 times. And so, on the highest levels of that, inevitably as a man, then inevitably as the artist, then inevitably is the medium, the clairvoyant. And so, if you understand, right, and most of the time, it's closer to Socrates. In Socrates' apology, in the trial, where they condemn him, where they State sanctioned his murder. He says, I had to go find everyone who was wise. I'm gonna start gluing. And so, Socrates was very shrewd. And he said, okay, I'm gonna do this legit. I'm gonna talk to everyone that I think could be wise. And so he goes first to the politicians, and then he goes to the poets, and then he goes to the tradesmen. And what he said about the poets, I think, is true for most clairvoyants. That the poets offer their rhapsody of words with no true understanding of where their words come from. And he says something like how the fans could explain their poetry better than the poets could, which is funny. It's very funny. Plato's a wonderful writer. And so, my point is that you can play the guitar. I'm a guitar player. I've played a bunch of songs on this channel. And you can be a great guitar player and have no inclination about circle of fifths, etc., musical theory, modes, modulation, scales, right? Chord phrasings, all these things. You don't have to know any of those things to write a great song. Kurt Cobain didn't know any of that shit, but he knew the Beatles. He loved a good song. And so, that's my point. That's what's occurring now, I suspect. Perhaps he does know everything that I know. He doesn't mean he's any less powerful. This is what he's dedicated his life to. And now he's subjecting it to me, right? Real evil, real dangerous evil. Where he keeps me perpetually in fear, in a state, right? I can't imagine living such a way. And I had a revelation about it yesterday. What I'll say is, I'm going to read it soon. I'm not going to read it right now, but I wrote a document to the press because, right, it's time. And he, it's all his machinations. Like, he likes making me seem insane. But I don't think that it went the way that he wanted it to. I wrote them just like a one-page document explaining everything. Like, I've been trying to complain for a long time that I'm the reason he canceled the film, and I've just been a pain in his ass, and right, please release this document so that the world knows. Because as long as it's just this occulted thing, then he can go, nah, I'm evil, I'll treat you like shit as much as I want. And I don't understand it. Inside doing, he ages himself. He ages everything around him. And he doesn't see it that way. But he doesn't actually understand. That's the point. And so, right, the evil, right, this is why I haven't been making videos, because, and I walked to the library and wrote up the document, and I'm not going to go on and on about it, but he's, right, this level of evil, this level of sinister malevolence, right, these machinations, that's where his movies come from. Right? It doesn't come from, you understand what I'm saying right now? Right? That he's cast his allegiances accordingly. I don't care. Doesn't upset me. I don't care what he does. Right? But my point is that he's never going to stop. And so, I'm cool. He wants to poison and torture my dreams. Right? But the evil of it all is really disgusting. And so I have to talk about it. I know I don't. Right? But I tried to not talk about it. And we got nowhere. So that's what's been occurring the last few days. And it's really upsetting, 100%. So it's supposed to be... Sorry, these pieces are right and left. Huh. Yeah, I guess that's it. It doesn't look right. Anyway. So it's the rhombicosydodecahedron. I want it to be over. That's all I want. That's all I want. Like, he can, right? This is what I put in the document, right? Like, he can have my scene for free. I guess I'll go. I know it's boring. It's hard for me to talk, but please pray for me, you know? Reach out to William Morris Endeavor, you know? It's time for the world to know. Right? It's just time for the world to know. So that, like, when I say something, people understand why I'm saying it, right? He has vampires and ugly, sinister people around him who go, well, he's the breadwinner. And so, it was my choice to not be a movie star. That's not a death sentence. Right? It was my choice to let him crawl all the way into my mind because I trusted him, because I felt bad. But that's not a death sentence either, because that's his doing. It's not mine. So, see what's good in your life. But all of these things touch on the idea of unity. All of these things touch on the idea of brotherhood, of fellowship. I could forgive it all in a moment's embrace, and I know we never will. So, pray for me. God bless.